JVing or using like investor lift platforms like that, which I think can help get you started. But there's no better networking tool in real estate than having deals and opportunity. What is going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing podcast. This is Monday. It's the Scale Show. And on this show, we interview operators just like you who are growing and actively, I would say, investing in their real estate business and trying to make it something that allows them to leave their W-2 or make really big money and live the lifestyle that they want. And our goal with this show is for you guys to be able to walk away with something that's super actionable that you can apply to your businesses today. So make sure you're taking notes and make sure that you reach out to our guest here afterwards. You've been in Scale for how long, Brennan?
Yeah, probably like a year and a half at this point. I think
Yeah.
last April.
Yeah. So a year and a half long Scale community member, Brennan Chetuck. And I know you live in Florida. You invest in a different part of Florida. I've met you one time at KeysCon. You recently had a kid. And so I kind of typically give like an intro about where I know where things are at. But I'll be honest, dude, I haven't talked to you a ton for the last like year. So I guess to kick us off, give us a general 3-minute overview, who you are, where exactly you're operating your business in, because I know it's virtual for you, and what your team currently looks like.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, I grew up originally in New York, on Long Island. Pretty, normal, middle class family. Definitely not rich, definitely not poor, right? Kind of like the one vacation a summer type family.
Did you go to like the Hamptons or like where do people go in New York?
I did not. No, not really. That's what everyone thinks. Long Island, kind of rich people, but only the Hamptons, and then closer to the city is like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I went to college, kind of did the whole normal college deal that everybody, I guess our age was doing. Got my business degree, started playing some sports in college. So I kind of had an overlap where I had an extra year of eligibility, trying to figure out what to do. Figured I would go get my MBA. Why not spend a little bit more money on college? During that time, I actually, I knew I kind of wanted to be into investing. I lived in some college houses and figured like these guys have to make a decent amount of money. Just kind of doing the quick math from what, my friends were paying. Um, Met a guy in my MBA who kind of turned me onto bigger pockets. And then, so at this point, I was living in upstate New York, bought my first rental up in New York. That was a student rental. And then kind of, took that path for a little while. So the next 2 years bought like 7 units that were all student rentals. And kind of like, you guys talk about on the show, just realized that I was not getting my financial freedom through those, $250 a unit cash flowing a month. So really,
Brandon, were you house hacking these, or are these like the traditional like 25% down rental stuff?
yeah. So the first one, so 2 of them we did house hack, did like the 3% down, 3.5% down FHA. And then 2 of them I actually bought with partners, which was 25%.
And
Nice.
what timeline was this again?
It was from 2020. So I bought my first rental literally January 2020. Then COVID hit, which was a whole other story. And then up until about 2023. So yeah, like 3-ish years. And at this time too, my job was about $50,000. So, using partners is kind of the only way that I could really grow those units.
I just want to highlight that because like when you originally started talking about your numbers, I would have assumed it was like longer ago, but like that's super recent. Like that's kind of after stuff had started to, boom and take off. And that's when most, people our age are like, oh, it was too late to buy properties at that point. But you did the contrary. And you said you were making 50 grand a year. You weren't making a lot of money. You were figuring out how to get these done. How did you like, I would say, build those initial relationships to start buying deals early on?
Yeah, so some of it was just from being upstate for, 8 or so years. I knew some people who were doing the whole college rental scene.
Mm.
And then I actually also, while I was working my full-time job, I worked a property management job as well. So, kind of took the reins from them and some of, like I said, the local people that I knew there that were doing the college rentals. Just took advice from them, pretty much saved every penny that I could. And at one point, my girlfriend actually, well, girlfriend at the time, wife now, worked for a property manager who he would rent us his units and then we would Airbnb them out. So pretty much like the Airbnb
Oh, arbitrage.
arbitrage, yeah,
Yeah.
before it was a thing. And that kind of helped us. We didn't have any rent to pay because I was covering it, and we just saved every dime, and then just pretty much would funnel it right back into the next property I would move into, and then the next year move into that one, and kind of snowball effect, I guess you can say from there.
Do you
Yeah.
own these rentals still today?
I do, yes,
Okay.
Nice.
and
Cool.
that's a
So what was the transition from New York to where you are now?
Yeah, so I hated it up in upstate. It's cold from pretty much like October to April. It's just gray, as I'm sure it's pretty similar to where you are, Dylan. And so I just wanted to get out of there, right? And once again, I was not really seeing much money coming from these rentals, like, a few $100 here or there. But like with the cash that we would have to put out, up front with them and stuff, I just realized that was not the way that I was going to, build wealth quickly. So, kind of had a turning point like early 2023 where me and my wife were just like, we need to get out of New York. Let's kind of go down, see if we can get a place down in Florida. We had some close friends who just moved down there. And we're like, let's just kind of like start fresh down there. And at the same time was when I wanted to really give wholesaling a start. So I said, hey, I'd give myself like a year to try this wholesaling stuff, see if it works out, move down to Florida, and kind of take the foot off the gas on buying rentals a little bit because once again, just wasn't really seeing the growth that I was hoping for.
Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated by this too because I didn't realize that you had moved down there so recently. Um, and I know that you don't you live in like southern Florida, like Tampa or something like that?
So I'm in Orlando, yeah.
You're in Orlando,
Mhm.
but don't you do your business in like Pensacola?
Yes, yeah. So
Why
Pensacola is like 6 hours away.
why did you make that decision? I mean, because you were doing that from as long as I've known you, that you
Yeah.
were doing deals over in
Yeah,
that
and
part of
like
the
I feel like
state.
Orlando is an investor friendly market too. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
curious.
so it's actually pretty funny. So I started like marketing to the wholesaling before I actually moved down to Florida. So I did
Mm.
start in Orlando. I marketed there a little bit, and then I know you guys, know Ryan Dossie, but I listened to him, followed him, and I thought he invested in Pensacola. He might have just lived there. I still don't even fully know, but I heard him talking about Pensacola, so that was the reason I chose Pensacola as my second market. And it just happened I got my first deal in Pensacola, and then just kind of kept building up that pipeline and stuff. And then I didn't even bother with Orlando anymore.
Funny. Yeah, he did live down there. His wife's in the Air Force and was stationed there.
Mm.
I went when I was part of that group. I went to two meetups there in Pensacola. But his main business in Indianapolis though.
Yeah.
And so he's had his guy running that one for ages. But that's funny. I mean, that's like I I would say that's an interesting way to like pick a spot, but also I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you have a operator that you know is legit that is having success somewhere, I mean, everyone always wants to know like what market should I pick? Just listen to where people are already doing it and freaking go there. Like people always want to like do these big analysis of like these
Hmm.
different markets. In my opinion, that's just an excuse to not get started. Like just go find where someone that you know is good and isn't just BSing you, is doing deals, figure out their business model, go there. And honestly, like they'll probably be stoked to have someone to JV deals with or to do additional deals with. Like I know I've made a lot of money in Spokane off people coming here and doing deals with us. And I think most people will be the same. So that's interesting. So as you started that up, you said you already started sourcing deals. What was your main source? Were you like sending mail back then? Because you said you were still making 50 grand a year. I don't think you had a lot of extra money.
Yeah, so I was pretty much doing every of the low cost marketing methods. So I really started with texting, and my budget was probably under $1,000 at that time. So I mean, it was very minimal what I was sending out. And then I would cold call myself as well. Didn't really have much success with that, but I would try and so still working, right? So try and cold call whenever I wasn't, working my W-2 job. But yeah, it was really mainly texting, just sending out whatever I could. And I think that's part of the reason why it took me like 6 to 8 months to close my first deal is because I didn't have the budget. So it was, like I said, $1,000 at most a month. But I mean, at the end of the day, still going through with that each month in and month out, it got enough leads to get the snowball rolling.
So in that beginning, Brendan, we're using a multi-line dialer, or are you just like literally typing in the numbers and calling people?
Yeah, so I was using a multi-line dialer. I don't know how
Okay.
people do the hand dialing. Not worth it for
Okay.
me.
And then the
But
texting, do you remember at all how many texts we were sending out per day by chance?
I don't. It was probably 100 a day at most. It was not a lot at all.
Yeah, for texting, that's not a lot.
No.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you were in like the just grind mode. I mean, the root of your whole backstory though, man, is you did a lot of work. Like
Hustle.
you,
There's a
you
lot of hustle.
hustled,
Yeah.
even way before you got into the wholesaling, you were doing all that stuff to start buying properties. And I mean, that's a huge, let's say, testament to your character. Because I would say the number one reason most people fail or never get started in not just this industry, but any industry is they're not willing to work hard. Right. And it's not, I don't know, like nothing comes easy anymore. And if anyone tells you it's going to, they're probably trying to steal your money.
Yeah, sell you something.
Yeah. So how many deals are you doing a month down there right now?
Yeah, so right now we'll average about 2 deals a month. We're at 12 right now, and we should have two more closed by the end of this month. I actually have a closing today.
Nice.
So yeah, on pace to do two a month this year.
Cool. And all wholesale?
All wholesale, yeah, everything.
Sweet. And
And
still,
what does that look like now as far as what's your main marketing methods? Is it still texting? Did you branch out to any other channels?
Yeah, so it is mostly texting. I do have cold calling up and running now, but with a company, right? So I'm not the one actually doing it.
Yep.
Starting to finally see some success with that. I think we've been doing that for about 4 months, and the deal that we're closing today will be the third from cold calling. But I'm definitely seeing we have about two more from cold callers in escrow. I did do the direct mail last year. It just I wasn't doing it enough. I wasn't spending enough money, and so I wasn't seeing the return that I was looking for. And just looking at my numbers, it made more sense for me to dive into the texting a little bit more. So I have done the direct mail, just didn't have success. But like I said, I mean, majority of that was from my own fault. But so yeah, texting and cold calling right now mainly.
yeah. I mean, and once you find what works, just do more of it, right? That's a big thing. It's a Alex Ramosi thing too, is once you find what gives you success, you should do more of that thing and then you should do it better. And then once you literally can't do more of it or can't do any better, then you should do something new. So it makes perfect sense that you're going that route. And so with your business right now, you said you have a caller. Are you kind of wearing all hats? You're doing all the acquisition, doing all the lead follow up, like, or do you have a VA that's assisting with all that?
Yeah, so I do still have a pretty demanding W-2 as of right now. So I do have two VAs. One of them is actually one that was hired from the job posting that we did at KeysCon last year.
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he's a lead manager who is now also submitting offers, and so he's kind of this hybrid between a lead manager and an acquisition manager. And then I also have a VA who handles all of my texting, and then, like I said, a third party cold calling company who they do all the managing of the cold callers and stuff like that.
So do you
Cool.
know what your approximate overhead is per month with
Yeah,
all
it's
that?
with all of that, including marketing. I mean, it fluctuates a little bit, but on average, probably about 6 grand.
Okay. And then
Mhm.
as far as all the deals you've done, do you know what your like revenue per deal is?
Yeah, so it's not as high as I would like. I've actually talked to Mike about this a little bit. We're at about $8,500 of revenue a deal.
Mhm.
So a little bit lower, I think, than some of the other people. But yeah, I've done some things to try and increase that. I do think my price point in Pensacola is very low. So that's one of the things I'm struggling with a little bit right now. But there's not all too much room to grow on that price per deal there or revenue
Yeah.
Yeah,
per
it's
deal.
hard in lower price markets to get huge spreads, and then you kind of got to make up for it with volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also too, there's this rise in the more competitive markets. Like I would put pretty much all of Florida in this. See it a lot in Texas too, where we have a couple virtual markets, or we've done a couple attempted a couple virtual markets. We haven't had one that's been incredibly successful down there. But there's this movement towards people doing this like super high volume like a low fee wholesale business where they'll just get like shit tons of contracts and their drop rate is disgusting, but they're just like trying to peel off all these things for like $3, $4, $5,000 fees, and they just do massive volume. It sounds like a logistical nightmare on the
That
TC
sounds
side.
awful, honestly.
But like there's a whole thing with that. Like I know a guy who lives down in Florida, he's a GoBundance guy, and they do like 350 to 400 deals a year, but they're all like that. And he has like 20 like in-house cold callers, and literally they do this one call close style of real estate, where they just get a shit ton of contracts and they lock it up, and then they try to like just wholesale these things. Like they'll wholesale deals for like $500 or $1,000.
Okay, so I'm gonna put context to that. They're making about $1 million a year, right? 300 to 350 with those kind of spreads.
They're making one, like it was like 1.2, 1.3.
Okay, so last year we did top line 600K and I'm one person. So I did 60% of their revenue with 1/20th of the staff.
Yeah, isn't that? It's just it's wild. But the thing that's challenging though, right, Dylan, is that person is a competitor to you, and if you make the same amount of money for sure, but like if it was I would say like a truly competitive scenario, they would beat you because they would.
I mean, totally. They can offer more for the property because they are willing to take less profit. Like that's actually my thing with wholesaling, not as much, but flipping. A lot of people are willing to take 15 to 20K on a flip. And to me, that's just too risky. And a lot of times because that money could go away real quick. I don't want to go off on a little side tangent. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
But to that point, though, I feel like they might win short term, but long term, they might be out of business in a year. So, if you're still there, then after they're out of business, I mean, you can just scoop in those deals because they're not even offering anymore.
Yeah, which is almost what happened to this guy. So he was selling everything to hedge funds, right? And then when that dried up, he got real lean really fast.
Yeah.
Along
those same lines, Brendan, how did I don't know if this affected you all that much, but there's a big crackdown, obviously, on SMS with regulations and stuff. How was that transition for you? Because I know when I was doing it, I was using launch control. They first were like stopped, like dead in the tracks. And then it wasn't until recently till we kind of fired it kind of back up in the past 6 months or so.
Yeah, so I was pretty lucky. I actually was not using launch control for the first, year and a half of doing texting. So I was using REI Reply, and they did not have that issue. So I was still able to continue the texting. I definitely did see a drop in like delivery rates though. And the one thing that they do as a software that's pretty annoying is they will suspend your account if your delivery rate drops. So it's like they'll suspend it for the rest of the day, and then you have to pick back up tomorrow.
So would you have to like change your templates that were be sending out, or like what was the way around that?
So the spin text thing where it's like, hey, you have these 3 words in a bracket and it sends out a different word each time. REI Reply did that a little bit differently. So we had to like implement that into it, and it took a while, like a lot of YouTube videos, reaching out to customer support, changing these templates, and at the end of the day, just testing to see what it was. But yeah, a lot of manipulating those templates and seeing what worked, what wasn't flagged.
Logistical question: your VA is doing the texting for you. What is her qualifying process to send that lead on to you? And like, what does that look like? Does it go from REI Reply or whatever it is to RE Simply, whatever CRM you're using?
Yeah, so I have just started using Launch Control too, so we are trying to move away from REI Reply because of that exact issue. But yeah, so the texter will communicate with the lead, and really it's if they raise their hand, say that they're interested in selling. And then if there is some sort of motivation, right, they need to, sell it fast, or if the price point seems to be relatively good compared to the Zillow, right, like a 70%, they're asking like 70%. It's kind of the 4 pillars that everybody knows about: price, timeline, condition. I forget the other one, motivation or whatever, but they're looking for at least like 2 of those, and then they'll import that into Podio, and then my lead manager will actually then pick up the phone, call them, get any remaining details. And then at that point, I'm still the one doing the final due diligence, running the numbers. Then I'll typically give that same lead manager the number that we have to be at and let him make that offer.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm not even to the giving up the offers part yet. So I love that.
Yeah, that's great. So doing all this while you manage your W-2 and everything else, how do you, I guess, like manage your time with that? I mean, you also got kids. Well, you got a kid, you got a marriage, like you got to do all these sales calls yourself. And then afterwards, I want to also know how you're doing your due diligence on this stuff virtually, because I know that's a big question people always ask.
Yeah. So the time is definitely a little tough. This year, specifically the last few months, I've definitely been spending a little bit less time and a little bit more time kind of with my family, focusing on like my health and stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just kind of fitting it in wherever I can. So I wake up, at like 5:30, do my, workouts and everything like that. And then I'll usually hop on for like an hour and a half to 2 hours before my job to kind of get things in place for the day. And then being able to delegate the texting and the lead managing has been huge for me. I mean, that's been, I don't even know where I would be if I did not start to do that. And then throughout the day, right, if there's fires that need to be put out or whatever, I work from home, so I have flexibility to where I can take calls and stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, kind of same thing, wrap up my W-2. I'll put in like an hour or something. And then really come like 7-ish, I'm trying to shut off as much as possible. But if things come up, I'm still slacking or emailing from my phone and stuff. So it's kind of a never ending grind, honestly.
So before we get to the follow up part of like your due diligence, and I know the audience will want to hear this, I want to know your answer. What is preventing you from maybe leaving that W-2 to do this full time? Because I think if Brendan had 40 hours a week to work on this business, I honestly think you'd kill it.
Yeah, so it's a good question. To be completely honest, so we do have a little bit of debt that I would like paid off before I could, kind of make the jump just to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. Um, at the end of the day, I think it's more of a mental thing than it is anything else. So at this point, I'm making more money doing the wholesaling stuff than I am at my W-2. Granted, obviously there's some additional costs that go into that and stuff like that. But I think, I think part of it is mental. Part of it is if I can, pay off some of the debts that I have. And then I think I would really like to be in a mode where I'm taking home six figures from the wholesaling. And I think I'll do it. But the mental part is definitely the part that I have to work on the most, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a you thing to work on, right? Because I agree with Dylan 100%. Like, especially you have the hustle factor. Like, I think that if you were all in on this, it wouldn't be taking home six figures. It would be taking home multi six figures, $400,000-$500,000 a year, like relatively quickly. I mean, because you already know what to do. You just need to do more of
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and your main limitation is time, and you're even making money. And so of the resources that exist in business, which is money, time, and energy, you have the money piece okay right now and ready to invest. You're lacking the time and energy part just because you have other commitments that are taking your time. So, and you can obviously try to hire and do different things, but that's a different skill set. And I would say it's probably not the right time for you to do that quite yet. So regarding the due diligence though, in this virtual market, how are you handling all of that? Because also too, I imagine there's some coordination that goes on. Like that's more time and energy that needs to go towards that too.
Yeah, I guess because I started that way, I haven't really even noticed that it's a bit of a struggle. A lot of the times, what I'll do is I will initially try and get pictures from the owner, and they're actually pretty, I would say it's like 60% of the time they won't, but 40% of the time they will. If they can get decent pictures, typically I can give, a pretty solid offer on that. I do have some boots on the ground in Pensacola. I have a guy who actually goes and takes pictures for me for free, which is pretty sweet. But if he's ever in a pinch, I do, I do have some people that I can pay as well to go take some pictures. And then it's really just getting those pictures, doing as good of a kind of rough estimate that I can get on rehab as possible. And then just doing kind of the typical, calculation of 75% ARV minus repairs and stuff. And then I think another thing that's helped is because I've been in the market so long that I know what some of the buyers are looking for. So like I have certain people, if it's not like a complete teardown and it's like a 3-1 and I have it, under 40,000, I have buyers who will buy it at 60. So a lot of that
Nice.
has come with like repetition where I know certain buyers where they're at. And if I can get it under that price point, I'll know I'll make a good spread.
Yeah. It's an underrated part of the business, honestly. And it's something that people always want to, I don't know, shortcut, right? Or like they look at JVing or using like investor lift platforms like that, which I think could help get you started. But there's no better networking tool in real estate than having deals and opportunity. Like you kind of need to eat it on your first ones, which I'm sure you probably learned. And then once you have those relationships, it's much easier to get stuff done. Um,
So are
and
you sending out your buyers on your first initial quote unquote walkthrough to some of
yeah,
these, or after you get these pictures and you can kind of get a gauge on where you need to be on price?
Yeah, usually it's after the pictures. Usually, for the most part, I won't send out buyers until I actually have it under contract. Once again, there are some situations where I've worked with buyers, they're trusted, and maybe I give trust a little too much, right? But some situations I'll let them go and walk it and let me know where they're at. Most of the time, it's after I have it under contract.
have you been bit by that yet? By like sending people out early?
Honestly, like not really. And the way that I look at it, like, if they bite me, yeah, it sucks, but then that person, they're not getting any more business from me, anyone that I know. So,
Mhm.
I mean, risk reward, I have not really gotten bit by it too bad yet.
I would say it's people always get overly concerned about that. I would say it's pretty rare
Hmm.
because everyone understands that it's a small industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it does happen. I mean, we
Yep.
have another scale member who's had some of his buyers in his market completely screw him over, and he keeps going back to them for some reason. I don't know why. He has like some weird Stockholm syndrome thing, being held hostage by them, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's sometimes that's the most efficient way to do it, especially if you're virtual. So I'm fascinated though. Why is this guy taking pictures for you for free? Is he just like a creep and he like wants to like walk into these people's houses or what?
Yeah, honestly, I still to this day do not know. My
Dude,
guess is,
he's
I,
probably like going in there and like stealing the seller's panties, bro. Probably like putting a fucking pervert in these guys' houses.
hey, whatever works, man. Whatever works. No, I think he's looking at it like at one of these times he's going to have a flip. I think he's only done like one flip, but I
Mm.
think that's his goal. I don't really know. I don't question it. He keeps going though. So
I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you what your best hire is, but I can't even consider him a hire because you don't pay him.
I know.
I'll send him
But
like a Christmas card or something with a gift card because I feel bad. I'm like, dude, just take my money.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm fascinated by this individual. I can't get anyone to do anything for free, like ever. Like, I
yeah,
Yeah.
can't even get a contractor to give me a bid for free anymore. They want to get paid for that. Like
Yeah,
it's
and
just outrageous.
it's not just like one. Like he has probably done over 20 plus properties, so it's not just like a one
Yeah.
time thing either. So
Yeah, he's definitely like doing something creepy in those houses. I'm just gonna expect that that's what's happening. But like you said, whatever works.
yeah.
Um, awesome. So overall, what do you think's like been the best system that you've integrated as you've like looked to balance your demanding W-2 with your family, with growing a reasonably successful business? What's been kind of like the key system for you?
Yeah, so I think, and going back to the best hire as well, the best hire for sure has been that lead manager. I wish I did that earlier, and I applaud you guys at KeysCon because that was literally the thing that made me do it. But that has
Awesome.
100% changed my business. And then on top of that, I think I've implemented like a scorecard, I guess you can say, and it's just a way to track the KPIs for my two VAs and the cold callers. But so I look at that like every day, and I think it allows me to kind of manage from kind of like a Eagles point of view, where I can see what they've done yesterday. I can see kind of what's on par for today, and just make sure that everybody's doing their work without constantly messaging them like, hey, did you make those calls today? Did you do this today? You do that today? So I would say that's probably been my best system.
what are you looking for in terms of calls per day?
Yeah, so for my lead manager, at about 140 to 150, I want 150, and he hovers right above that, or right about that, I should say. And I will ask, what do you guys look at with that, Mike, in terms of lead manager calls?
You're working in your CRM?
Correct. Yeah.
So like our lead managers will probably hit, like if they're hitting a lot, they get low answers 70 to 80 a day
Okay.
on average working or simply.
Mine's closer to yours, Brennan.
Is
Okay.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the main difference though with ours is they also do like underwriting and like sort of additional, I would say like information gathering work as well. So they're not just like sitting on the phones the whole time. Like they have like stuff that they do in between, where they're updating notes and they're adding Zillow values, they're receiving all the initial calls, and they actually listen to the calls from Call Porter and make sure that things are all verified on there. And so those things like kind of bounce out the numbers, but I mean it varies.
Is your LM Brennan using a dialer inside the Podio?
No, so he is just going one by one through there.
Okay.
And then he'll even go into, like I said, REI Reply is the texting platform that I used, which used to also be my CRM. So he'll even go into there sometimes and call through some of the lists that we have in there if he's, kind of went through all of his daily leads.
How many leads do you think, I'm getting off topic, how many leads do you think are in your CRM right now?
I don't know that question.
Because going through 150 calls a day is a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely a decent amount. So I've started to open up the qualifications a little bit. So at this point, really kind of anyone who raises their hand, I'm telling them to put into our CRM, because I would rather have my lead manager hit them once a month or, once every 2 months, just get them in the system. And then at some point down the line, we might be in the right place at the right time.
Makes sense. And then are they using some kind of tax function on the cadence on how to follow up every couple of days, every couple of weeks, etc.?
Yeah, this is something that we're still working out a little bit, but really, so we have like hot leads that came in that we haven't contacted yet. So like cold callers or the texters, put them into our CRM, and our lead manager hasn't gone to them. He's hitting those every day. Hot ones that he has contacted, but is still either waiting on some additional information or whatever the case may be. Anything hot, he's hitting once a day. Warm leads, it's really like once a week. Cold leads, once a month. And then, like I said, sometimes he'll go through some of these leads where it's like, hey, they were retail once a month, or I would say.
So is he disqualifying for you too? It sounds like.
Yes, but it's right now. It's really more of like they sold the house, or they explicitly told us to take them off their list. Other than that, we're really just keeping them in like a super cold follow-up.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Cool. I mean, and that's a huge part of the business, right? I think gets neglected is somebody opted to have a conversation with you at some point. And most people, especially doing any sort of target marketing, will need to sell. And it's all just about being in front of them when they decide to make that decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, cool. Awesome. Well, tons of great information, Brennan. And congrats on the success you've had too, especially with balancing the new arrival of your child. Like that definitely makes things more challenging. I was just trying to find which episode you came on to tell your crazy story for the little deal deep dive. I forget what we called those, the deal case study that we did a little while back. But we're going to see if you have any more good stories, because as we go into our end of show questions here, the first question that we always ask is, what is your craziest real estate story? The one that you were on before, we'll put a link to it in the show notes of that. So the one that you told last time was your very first story. Do you have another crazy story on top of that you would like to share today?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was actually thinking about this question, and to date, I still think that is the craziest one, which coming full circle, that person actually gave me a referral lead, which I'm under contract with right now.
That's crazy.
I would say with the virtual stuff, it definitely makes it less crazy because, not seeing these people in person. The one that I can think about was this person. I got the lead came in, they said that they were interested in selling the house. We came to an agreement on a number, which was about like 65,000. And I was going to make a really good spread on this, at least like 20 grand. So I go to send them the agreement. I realize that the person I'm talking with is a different person than the person on title, like different last name and everything. So I'm like, all right, that's a little weird. Whatever though. Who's this Catherine lady? He's like, oh, it's my, I forget what he said, sister or wife, whatever. But he winds up getting an photo ID of this Catherine person. I get in touch with her, so I'm like, okay, send it out to them, sign it. Gonna put $2,000 into title company, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we want like $200 cash app to us. So I'm like, oh,
Oh,
we don't really do that. Like it goes through title company. And they were just super, like persistent with wanting this $200. So, in my head, I'm like, I know this is a scam, but like, I might be able to make like 30 grand. So, like, maybe I'll entertain it. So, I ask her for the Cash App, and I'm literally going to send this Cash App, and there's like errors and everything. So, I'm like, no, this isn't real, whatever. I tell them, I was like, guys, I tried to send you this Cash App, which, by the way, I do not recommend to anybody. I was okay with losing the money, but it didn't work. So then they give me this random person who I've never heard of, random name. Oh, Cash App this person. So I'm like, okay, no, that's not happening. We go back and forth. I tell them, hey, I put the deposit in with title. They call title. They see the deposit. Title. I've worked with title companies, so they kind of like back me up with it. And then they start asking for it again. I'm like, no, maybe I'll do 100 this time. They're like, okay, do it through an e-gift card. So I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. And then all of a sudden, they start getting super like hostile, like telling me that they're going to shoot me in the face if I step foot on the property, like all this stuff, like just threatening me. All these different types of way they're gonna kill me and stuff. So I'm like, this is getting a little bit crazy here. So at that point, just kind of stopped dealing with them. Got the deposit back from the title company. He kept trying to call the title company saying that we, broke the contract and he wanted that money and stuff. And so I eventually just blocked him, and kind of that was it.
So you never knew if you're actually talking to the actual seller or not.
So I don't. It was interesting because like they both sent me their IDs with the legitimate names on them, everything on them. Like it seemed like it truly was the person, but they had no intention of actually selling the house. They were just going to take the money and run. But I don't know. I still don't know to this day.
You should follow back up with them.
You should
and try to get a new lead.
For sure. You should have You should have clouded title just because.
So I threatened to do that, and then that was when they started threatening me, and I was like, I don't think this is worth it at this point. So
yeah, it gets tough. Like stuff like that is so common. Like I don't think I even knew what deed theft was until like a year ago. And now we have seen so many instances of people with false identities, like doing all this shady stuff, trying to, steal properties. What the most common scenario is if it's like a junkie that owns the house and like they go to jail and their friends like, I could fucking be Steve and sell the house and steal his money, right? Because they were like doing meth in the house together, and like he knows the one guy's gone, and so he like pretends, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where everyone looks the freaking same, where they all have like the same haircut and the same facial hair. Like it gets out of control super quick. We've had some that got pretty dang close until they started doing some due diligence on people, and I learned that they actually do check jail records. I don't know if it was everywhere, but here when they pull title reports.
I didn't realize that. I had someone fake a deed out of their dead mom's name into their own name because they didn't go through probate and try to sell it.
There you go.
Also, I've had this happen a lot recently on the same subject. So many older people, maybe this is the way they used to do it, think that EMD goes to them personally and not like the title company. They're like, give me the EMD. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Like you're just going to run with it no matter what.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Hey, baby boomers that learned how to listen to podcasts. Is that how it used to be how it works? all us millennials over here are freaking clueless, and there's a bunch of you guys out there asking stupid questions. So vouch for yourselves.
So Brendan, one other question for you. If you go back to the very beginning, New York, Brendan, what's one thing you would do differently?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what you guys preach, but I would have avoided the buying rentals. Not that I completely regret it, because they have, appreciated pretty significantly and stuff like that. But I think if I would have started going after the active income 4 years ago, as opposed to, 2 years ago, I would be in a much better place right now.
Yeah.
Do you have ambitions to buy more buy and holds eventually?
Eventually, honestly, right now, like even looking at, so I would still buy where I have my other rentals. And I've had a few leads come in, and I'm looking at the numbers with the interest rates, and I just can't pencil things right now. So currently, I'd rather just funnel the money back into the wholesaling business and continue to grow this. And then, when opportunities come up, I'll jump on them. But in the future, for sure, as of right now, I'm okay sitting on the sidelines a little bit and just stockpiling some cash.
So, serious question. What's your current cash flow from those rentals?
So yeah, let me think about this. So they
Like net
actually,
net?
yeah, net. Um, that's a good question. So they do pretty well. Our one house is a cash cow.
Okay.
We've added some bedrooms, so it's 10 bedrooms, getting about
Shit.
$650 a bedroom, and our mortgage is $2,000.
Nice.
So that one does a decent amount. I would say probably $1,500 to $2,000 net. But once again, that's being very active because we rent by the room,
Sure.
which I'm realizing, especially I'm still managing those. It's
Yeah.
becoming more of a headache than it is
You're
worth the
just
$1,500 a month.
a professional hustler. Yeah. And then what's your equity in all that?
Yeah, so the equity, I do have partners in some of them, so it's probably 200, 200 to 250 ish after
Across all of
taking
them?
out the equity partners. Hmm.
I mean, would it make sense for you if you look at like your total, like I would say potential earnings, right? Your own opportunity cost to get cash out of that, pay off your debt and or put money in the bank and then just go all in on your wholesaling business, like give yourself a nice cushion.
Yeah, so we actually thought about that. So we talked with a realtor to sell because we have one single family up there, which is one that me and my wife lived in and are now renting it out. It's definitely something we're going to explore next year as well because we've thought about that. That house we'd probably walk away with 60K in 2.5 years. And like you said, I mean, we can pay off some of the debt that we have, stack some money, have a nice cushion, and then ultimately, I think that would help me leave my job a little bit quicker.
When did you buy that house?
2021.
And then
So
how long did you live in it?
we bought it in 2022 actually, and we this is one of the things, if I could go back in time I would have redone this. We moved out about 4 months before we hit that 2 month or that 2 year mark, whatever
So my
that.
understanding of this, by the way, is you still qualify for the tax benefit. It's just a prorated a little
Prorated,
bit. It's
right?
not,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what my
right.
CPA said as well. So I still think it would help pretty significantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were like 4 months out of that 2 year mark.
Okay. Well, if I'm
Nice.
making a vote, I still think you should sell it, quit your W-2, and you'd be looking a lot prettier 12 to 18 months from now.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean, it's an underrated way that people that have been doing what you've been doing and accumulating assets and hustling can achieve quote unquote financial freedom or financial flexibility faster. Going on business is just give yourself a freaking lump of cash as like an insurance policy. Like there's always this view that financial freedom needs to look like money coming into your bank account every single month, but you can also like achieve it if you just have several years of living expenses that are just sitting there that you can use and you can invest some of that. You can use that to make more money a lot faster. But I don't know. I feel like people get addicted to the dopamine of like the paycheck. And so they don't like to think about things that way. So anyways, we're on a tangent though, but I think I agree with Dylan. Right on, man. Well, lots of great information today. Where can people find you, follow you, and reach out to you?
Yeah, I think Instagram would probably be the best. So it's B Chetuck, which is BCHETUCK. And that's pretty much it. Facebook, Brendan Chetuck, but I'm not doing too much on Facebook these days.
Cool. Right on. Well, guys, go and shoot Brendan a follow. He is doing some awesome stuff down there in Florida. And in case you can't tell, he's a normal guy, just like you. Just he probably works harder because I'll be honest, he fucking works harder than me. So he definitely is getting after it down there. Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Everybody, please share this with anyone who likes a good hustle story, wants to know what a budding real estate millionaire looks like, or might get some good tips for their own business they're building themselves. Appreciate you guys listening. Talk to you guys next week.